Yesterday, February 22nd, 2026, Mexican Special Forces killed Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes in the mountain town of Tapalpa, Jalisco. You probably know him by his cartel name, El Mencho, leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the most wanted man in Mexico. $15 million bounty on his head. Within hours of his death, his cartel set half the country on fire. Burning vehicles blocked highways in nearly a dozen states. Guadalajara, Mexico's second-largest city, went dark. Prisoners rioted in Puerto Vallarta. Schools were canceled. Tourists sheltered in airports. The U.S. Embassy told Americans to stay indoors. One man dies, and an entire nation holds its breath. This is how he got there. Avocado fields. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes was born on July 17, 1966, in the Tierra Caliente region of Michoacán. Hot country, rural, poor. His family grew avocados. He had 5 brothers. He dropped out of primary school in the 5th grade to work the fields. By 14, he was guarding marijuana plantations for local growers. Not because he was ambitious, because that was the available job for a kid with no education in a region where the drug trade was the largest employer. He didn't choose the game. The game was the only thing on the menu. At some point in his teens, he decided he wanted out. Not out of crime, out of Mexico. He crossed illegally into California in the 1980s. He settled in the San Francisco Bay Area, used fake names: Ruben Avila, José López Prieto, Miguel Valadez. He cycled through identities the way other immigrants cycle through jobs. In 1986, at 19, San Francisco police arrested him for stolen property and carrying a loaded firearm. 2 months later, his first child was born. He kept crossing the border under different aliases throughout the late 1980s. He wasn't building an empire. He was hustling. Small time. Desperate. A young man from Michoacán, trying to survive in a country that didn't want him there. The heroin deal. In 1989, he was arrested again in San Francisco for selling narcotics. Deported. He came back. In September 1992, the law caught up for real. El Mencho and his brother Abraham walked into a San Francisco bar called the Imperial to sell 5 ounces of heroin for $9,500. Abraham handled the deal. El Mencho was the lookout. He was 26 and already sharp enough to smell the setup. He noticed the bills were too neatly stacked. He warned Abraham through a conversation that police later picked up on a wiretap. He told his brother never to deal with those men again. They were undercover cops. 3 weeks later, both brothers were arrested. El Mencho faced a choice. If he fought the charges and lost, Abraham, who already had felony drug convictions, would likely get life. His lawyers told him a jury trial was a losing bet, so he took the plea. Guilty. 5 years. He went to Big Spring Correctional Center in Texas, a facility packed with undocumented immigrants. He served 3 years. Got paroled, got deported. He was 30 years old. He had a criminal record in the U.S., no education, no money, and no prospects. He went back to Mexico and did something nobody expected. He became a cop. The police officer. After his deportation, El Mencho joined the municipal police forces in Cabo Corrientes and Tomatlan, 2 small towns in the state of Jalisco. The details of this period are thin. How long he served, why he joined, whether it was genuine or strategic. What is known is that he left the police and transitioned into organized crime full-time. He joined the Milenio Cartel, a trafficking organization run by the Valencia family in western Mexico. To lock in his position, he married Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, the sister of one of the cartel's key figures. It wasn't just a marriage, it was a merger. A man with no lineage and no family connections just married into one of the most powerful criminal bloodlines in Jalisco. Analysts later described it as diplomacy through marriage. He was the chief of hitmen. She was the pedigree. Together, they had a seat at the table. Building the machine. Under the Milenio cartel, El Mencho served as the head of a squad of assassins protecting the cartel boss Armando Valencia Cornelio, known as El Maradona. When El Maradona was arrested in 2003, the Milenio cartel came under attack from Los Zetas, backed by the Gulf Cartel. The Valencia family was forced to flee Michoacán and relocate to Jalisco. In Guadalajara, El Mencho and the Milenio cartel formed an alliance with the Sinaloa cartel through a capo named Ignacio Nacho Coronel. Under Coronel, El Mencho managed drug operations, finances, and assassinations across Colima and Jalisco. He was learning the business from the top. Not just the violence, the logistics, the politics, the money. Then the dominoes started falling. In 2009, the Milenio cartel's top leader, Oscar Nava Valencia, was arrested. In 2010, his brother was arrested too. 2 months after that, Nacho Coronel was killed in a shootout with the Mexican army. The power structure that El Mencho had operated under for a decade collapsed in less than a year. The Milenio cartel fractured into 2 factions. One side wanted a man named El Pilo to lead. The other side, backed by the Valencia family, wanted El Mencho. The split turned violent. The faction that chose El Mencho became something new. They called themselves the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, and El Mencho was at the top. The rise of CJNG. What El Mencho built over the next decade was unlike anything Mexico had seen since the peak of the Sinaloa cartel. CJNG didn't just traffic drugs. They waged war on a scale that made other cartels look like regional operations. They attacked rivals, police, military, and politicians with equal brutality. In May 2015, the cartel responded to a government security operation by setting up roadblocks across multiple municipalities simultaneously and shooting down a Mexican military helicopter. 3 soldiers died. It was a statement. We can fight the army and win. The cartel's business model was industrial. Methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, heroin. They controlled seaports for importing chemical precursors from China. They built labs. They managed distribution networks stretching from Jalisco to the U.S. Midwest. Under El Mencho, CJNG expanded into dozens of Mexican states and established operations in the U.S., Europe, and Asia. The DEA called it one of the most powerful and fastest-growing criminal organizations in the world. El Mencho ran it with discipline. He was not flashy. Unlike El Chapo, who gave interviews and built tunnels with motorcycle tracks, El Mencho was a ghost. Only a handful of photographs of him existed. He didn't seek attention. He sought control. He demanded loyalty and punished disloyalty with a brutality that became the cartel's signature. Dismembered bodies left as messages. Banners hung from bridges. Videos uploaded to social media showing executions. The violence was strategic. Every act of terror was a memo sent to competitors, informants, and the government. His family was embedded in the operation. His son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, known as El Menchito, was a high-ranking member before his arrest and extradition to the U.S. His daughter, Jessica Johanna Oseguera Gonzalez, was arrested in the U.S. for financial dealings connected to the cartel. His wife, Rosalinda, was arrested in Mexico in 2022. One by one, the people closest to him were removed from the board. He kept operating. The manhunt. The U.S. State Department put a $15 million bounty on El Mencho's head. The DEA placed him on its most wanted list. In February 2025, the Trump administration designated CJNG as a foreign terrorist organization. El Mencho became the #1 target for both governments. He survived by disappearing. Reports placed him in the rural sierras of Jalisco, Michoacán, Nayarit, or Colima at various times. He was guarded by mercenaries with former military training. He moved constantly. He communicated through intermediaries. By 2020, reports emerged that he was suffering from kidney disease. He allegedly built a hospital in the village of El Alcihuatl to treat his condition. By 2022, Security analysts noted he hadn't been seen in years. Some speculated he was already dead. He wasn't. He was hiding. And he was sick. The pressure intensified. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum, under enormous pressure from the Trump administration to show results against the cartels, gave the military broader authority to pursue cartel leadership. U.S. Navy SEALs reportedly trained the Mexican Special Forces unit that would eventually find him. U.S. intelligence agencies provided what the Mexican Defense Department later described as complementary intelligence. The noose was tightening. Tapalpa. On Sunday morning, February 22, 2026, Mexican Special Forces launched an operation in Tapalpa, a small mountain town about 2 hours southwest of Guadalajara. It was the heart of CJNG territory. The soldiers met armed resistance. A firefight broke out. 4 cartel members were killed at the scene. 3 more, including El Mencho, were wounded. 2 others were arrested. The military seized armored vehicles, rocket launchers, and an arsenal of weapons. El Mencho was alive when they pulled him out, wounded. They loaded him onto a helicopter for transfer to Mexico City. He died during the flight. He was 59 years old. He'd spent roughly 30 years in organized crime. He built the most powerful cartel in Mexico. He had a $15 million price on his head, and he died on a military helicopter somewhere between the mountains of Jalisco and a hospital he'd never reach. The aftermath. The reaction was immediate. Within hours, CJNG launched coordinated chaos across the country. Gunmen torched vehicles and blocked highways in Jalisco, Colima, Michoacán, Nayarit, Guanajuato, and Tamaulipas. In Guadalajara, burning trucks shut down major roads. The city went silent. Civilians locked their doors. Public transportation was suspended. Governor Pablo Lemus told residents to stay home. In Puerto Vallarta, a popular tourist destination and future World Cup host city, smoke rose over the skyline. Prisoners rioted at a local jail, killing a guard. At Guadalajara International Airport, an active shooter situation was reported. Videos showed tourists sprinting through terminals. American Airlines waived change fees for travelers. The U.S. Embassy issued shelter-in-place orders across multiple states. Canada's embassy told citizens in Puerto Vallarta to hunker down. A National Guard member died in Tapalpa during the initial operation. 6 more National Guard members were killed in Zapopan, adjacent to Guadalajara. A state prosecutor's agent was killed in Guadalajara. Schools were canceled across several states the following day. The message from the cartel was clear. You took our leader. We can paralyze the nation. What's left? El Mencho is dead. His son is in a U.S. prison. His daughter is in a U.S. prison. His wife was arrested in Mexico. His brother is incarcerated. The immediate line of succession is empty. There is no obvious heir. Security analysts are already comparing the situation to what happened after El Chapo's arrest, when the Sinaloa cartel fractured into warring factions that turned entire states into war zones. CJNG is not a small operation that collapses when the boss dies. It's a sprawling network with regional commanders, financial infrastructure, international supply chains, and thousands of armed operatives. The cartel will likely splinter. Regional bosses who operated under El Mencho's authority will compete for control. Alliances will break. Territories will be contested. The violence that erupted on Sunday is probably just the opening chapter. Mexico has been here before. Every time the government takes out a cartel leader, the celebration is short and the consequences are long. The Sinaloa cartel's civil war following El Chapo's arrest is still producing bodies. The question is never whether the cartel survives. It's how many people die while it rearranges itself. The Ark. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes was born in a dirt-poor village in Michoacán. He picked avocados. He dropped out of 5th grade. He crossed into the U.S. illegally as a teenager. He got arrested selling heroin in a San Francisco bar. He took a plea deal to save his brother from life in prison. He served time in a Texas prison. He got deported. He became a cop. He became a hitman. He married into a cartel family. He survived the collapse of 2 criminal organizations and built a third from the wreckage. He turned CJNG into the most powerful cartel in Mexico. He trafficked fentanyl on an industrial scale. He ordered assassinations, shot down helicopters, and terrorized the nation. He hid in the mountains for years while his kidneys failed and his family was arrested one by one. He died on a helicopter at 59 with a $15 million bounty on his head and a country burning behind him. The avocado farmer's kid from Michoacan became the most wanted man in the Western Hemisphere. And the machine he built will keep running long after they bury him. It always does. The name changes. The product changes. The routes shift. But the machine keeps running because the conditions that built it, the poverty, the corruption, the demand, none of that died on that helicopter. That's a wrap for today. El Mencho is gone. The cartel he built is not. And somewhere in Michoacan right now, a kid is standing in a field deciding whether to stay or cross. The game hasn't changed. It just lost a player. If this one made you think, drop a comment. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.